Hi everyone. How are you all? Is everyone having fun? Are you also doing proper revision? Before we move on to second lecture. So in today's class, what we will study is rates under GST. How many rates are there in GST? Primarily there are 4 rates. 5, 12, 18, 28. 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. When the GST was introduced, at the time the finance minister of our country was Arun Jaitley. He is no more. Even though at that time it was said that we are bringing 4 rates of GST, but our effort will be to ensure that the rates of GST come down. 5, 12, 18, 28, there should not be so many rates. We will gradually reduce the rate of GST, which means, for instance, currently there are 4 GST rates over here. There will not be 4 different rates, we will gradually reduce them. My first target will be to merge the 12% and the 18% GST items into one. And we will make its rate somewhere in between, for example 15% rate or a 14% rate. And we will merge them. Then gradually we will try and reduce the rates. So that, the GST says that one nation, one tax, one market. So basically we will also try to bring that one tax to one rate of tax. But he also explained that honestly, in our country, there is a requirement of different rates of GST. Actually, there are many countries in the world where GST is applicable, but the rate is only one. Each item has same rate. Then why are there different rates here? He explained that our country's economy is very varied and very different from the economies of the world. Rich people of our country are the richest in the world. Right? And the poor people here are the poorest in the world. So what do we have to do here? We have to apply different GST rates. We have to think that this is something that is needed every day, even the poor people need this, so the rate should be low. This is also something which is necessary. So let's take the GST from it, but it should be a low GST, right? This is a luxury item. Only a wealthy person would use it, so let's charge a high GST. Because we have to think about all this too. And maybe that's why we have different GST rates here. He explained it like this, and I'm telling you the same thing so that you can also understand why there are different GST rates in our country. Although he said that we will still try to reduce the number of the GST rates, we will try to lower it. But gradually, over the period of time, the number of rates of GST has increased even further. But apart from 5, 12, 18, 28 GST rates are applicable to very limited items of goods and services. It's not that much either. It's applicable to very few items. Come, let's see what all the rates are in GST. The CGST and SGST would be levied at rates to be jointly decided by the center and states on the recommendation of the GST Council. So guys, who decides the GST rates? The GST Council decides, and who is on the GST Council? The central government and the state government both. Right? After next 1 or 2 classes, you will also learn about the GST Council, that what is this GST Council. You must have been hearing in the news that the GST Council meeting was there. And this decision was taken in the GST Council meeting. So all the information related to GST that you have been receiving so far, or any news that you are getting, the information you are getting, or any government decision you are hearing were taken. Where were they taken? In the GST Council meeting. And GST Council is a council where both central and state governments members are present. The discussion about this will begin after the next 2-3 classes. The rate of IGST shall be decided by the center on the recommendations of the GST Council. IGST rates. Who will decide? It shall be decided by center on recommendation of GST Council. So CGST. And SGST rate is decided by the central and the state government together. And through GST Council, that thing comes in front of you. Okay? And IGST rate is decided by central government and it comes before you through GST Council. Peak rate of CGST and IGST have been provided in the law at the rate of 20% and 40% respectively. The GST law states that the peak rate, the highest rate of CGST, can be 20%. This means the GST rate cannot exceed this. CGST rate can be maximum 20% and IGST rate can be maximum 40%. Now you already know. If we are applying IGST on any item at 40%. So how much will CGST and SGST be of this item? IGST is applicable on interstate, and if the same item is sold in intrastate, then CGST and SGST will apply. So how much will this be? It will be half, 20%. I'm saying this is peak rate, highest rate. The government on any item 20% or 40%. If it is applying GST, meaning 20% CGST or 40% IGST. No, not yet. This is peak rate. Maximum GST rate could be till here. So what is the GST rate now? Currently the GST rate which is commonly applicable is 5, 12, 18, 28. The same 4 rates are common for goods as well. These are the main rates for services as well, 5, 12, 18 and 28. Okay, 5, 12, 18, 28. These are 4 types of rates. 5% come, let's talk about goods. On which item is 5% applied to? It's applied to essential goods. On essential goods. Okay, if it's very essential, then it's very essential. If you don't get it, the person will die, for example. Let's say vegetables, okay? Or loose grocery. You know what is the rate of GST on these? 0. Because that is necessary. Okay, everyone needs food. Right, so the GST rate on that is 0%. We are not talking about 0. What are the other rates besides 0? There's 5% GST rate on essential goods. Means it's essential. Okay? In a way, if you see, 12% is applied to basic necessities. Essential means very necessary. Basic necessity means it's necessary. Okay? In 18%, it's normal. And in the 28% comes luxury items and sin item. Luxury means cars and so will fall under this category. Okay, if we talk about sin items, what will come under this? Cigarettes and others will come in this. These are items that come under 28% GST rate. Meaning the luxurious items and the injurious items. Okay? And the sin goods. Meaning all those goods that are injurious to health, that are not needed, and yet you still take them. So all of them have been put in the highest GST rate. If we talk about services, you know that most of the services are at what rate? Well, in goods, the most. Major items are taxable at 12 and 18%. Majority. Goods. Rate. Rate of majority goods is this. Okay, and if we talk about services, then the rate for the majority is 18% in services. Majority services. If you don't know the rate of a service, you can assume it's 18%. For goods, it's either 12% or 18%. Okay, it will be 12 or 18. Okay, 5, 12, 18, 28, these are commonly used rates. You already mentioned that 18% is common for services and for goods, it's mostly 12 or 18%. And 5, 12, 18, 28, these are the common rates. Okay, so now what is the remaining ones? 0.25 rate is on which goods? 0.25 is on precious or semi-precious stones, like diamond, sapphire and emerald, all these stones that you use like jewelry. Okay, so 0.25% is on precious stones, like diamond. Okay. And 3% is on what? 3% is on gold/silver. 3% is on this. Okay. Let's talk about services now, and you don't need to know 5, 12, 18, 28. This was limited to one item, like 0.25 is on precious stones, so I mentioned it. Now 3% is on what? It's on gold, silver jewelry, gold, silver jewelry, gold, silver bullion. Biscuits that come in gold and silver, right? The coins that are of gold and silver, on these it's 3%. Okay, and it's not on anything else. There are so many in 5, 12, 18, 28, so how many things can a person name? Let's talk about services now in the 5%. In 1.5%, in 1.5% affordable. Residential apartment. I had told you that GST is not applicable on immovable property, I told you. So you might ask that GST is not applicable on immovable property, and you're saying if affordable residential apartments will be sold, then 1.5% GST will apply on it. It's called immovable property when that property is completed. Like a builder is selling a flat, okay? But when? It's not yet built. It's selling even before it's built. Does this happen? Yes, actually it happens in the market too. What does the builder do? He performs Havan ceremony, builds demo flat and starts selling the flats. He sells it based on the drawing only. He makes a drawing on paper, then he shows that this flat will be yours for this much money. So until the flat is built and completed, it's called construction services. Okay? GST is applied on construction services. It's GST on services. How much GST? In affordable housing, it's 1.5%. If it's affordable housing, then it's 1.5%. Now, what is affordable housing? For every city, the government has decided on the amount for affordable housing, such as that if it's in Noida, and if it's priced at 30 lakh rupees, then we will call it an affordable housing. It's an example. I don't know what the definition of affordable housing is in which city. If you're buying flat in Varanasi, then a flat costing up to 23 lakh rupees would be considered affordable housing. Meaning there is a certain amount, a small home up to that amount, which even the poorest wants to buy, is called affordable housing. It's called affordable housing. There's a certain amount decided for affordable housing. Government says if a flat is up to this amount of rupees, then we call it affordable housing. It will be different for each city. Obviously, in Delhi, affordable housing could mean 40 lakh rupees. That a flat up to 40 lakh rupees is considered affordable housing. Okay? So, if affordable housing is being sold by the builder, so he will take 1.5% GST on it. And if it's not affordable housing and it's some other apartment, then so on this it's 7.5%. Other residential or commercial apartment. Residential or commercial apartment meaning shops that are sold after construction. Okay? So on this there is a 7.5% GST. And if they are selling it after construction, then GST is not applicable. Okay? Then what is 5% applicable on? 5% is applicable on the housekeeping services like plumbing and carpentry, services that are provided by plumber, carpenter, electrician. Yes, those whose turnover is over the specified limit, don't forget this. Because those whose turnover is less than a specified limit, they are not even under the purview of GST. Okay, who will be under the purview of GST? Those whose turnover is more than a specified limit. So I wouldn't tell you more about 5, 12, 18, 28 because I don't want to talk about it. Okay? The services have two more rates. How will you remember them? 5, 12, 18, 28 are common for goods and services, and these are the main rates. Goods have two more rates, 0.25% and 3%. And there are two more rates for services, 1.5% and 7.5%. Will you remember? I explained 0.25 and 3% is applied on what in goods and in services. I explained 1.5 and 7.5 is applied on what? Let's try to understand one thing. I'll tell you a few things like Parle-G biscuits. Okay? It's a very famous biscuit. It's eaten in every home. This Parle-G biscuit has a GST rate of 12%. Now gold biscuit. What is the GST rate on this? 3%. Why am I telling you this? Because here I just come, give a speech and leave. And the child later gets upset and says, sir, you talk about the whole world and the government sees the poverty and wealth of the whole world. Okay, what the poor person buys, the GST is charged less on it. This doesn't make sense. 12% GST is charged on Parle-G biscuit and 3% GST on gold biscuit. Who would be buying a gold biscuit? A rich person is buying it, then why is there a 3% GST on it? Let me explain to you. GST came on 1st July 2017. Before this, there was no GST in our country. Our country had old taxes like excise duty, service tax and VAT and CST. All of these were there. The GST came in its place. Okay? The tax that was levied on sale was VAT and CST. And do you know, on the gold and on diamonds as well? This VAT and CST tax which was levied earlier on sale, how much was it and at what rate? It was not there, nil. Now the government faced a huge challenge. They needed to find a way to bring items that were not subject to GST under the GST regime. Do you know that GST was not applied on textiles? Earlier there were no taxes on the textiles. There were no taxes. Earlier VAT and CST were applicable but not on textiles. But when the GST law was implemented, then 5% were applied on textiles. 5% GST on clothes. In this much only in entire Surat. Mass movement had begun. If you are looking at the time of GST on YouTube or on the Google, if you search that protest, over GST against government by the people in Surat. Understand that they protested against the government, that we will not let GST come. You will see that the public outcry had come out, the whole Surat had come out on the roads. It was such a huge crowd. Okay, so the government probably put 5% on textiles, otherwise they might have charged more tax. Now GST was never applied on the gold. The government was afraid that if they imposed a very high GST rate, it would cause chaos, so they thought let's apply a small amount and introduce it. I'll tell you the second thing. In all these things, people's black money is involved. People who buy jewelry, they say, I'll purchase a 9 lakhs worth of jewelry for you. What money do they use to purchase 9 lakhs worth jewelry? They use their black money to purchase it, not white money. Right? So a lot of people already buy gold and silver biscuits and they hoard their black money in them. Does the government know this? Yes, they do. If the government applies a 5%, 12%, 18% GST on it, so people will use more black money, they will buy it with cash. The jeweler will say that this is 10 lakh rupees worth of jewelry. It has an 18% GST, which is 1,80,000 rupees. The person in front will say, take 10 lakh rupees in cash. I don't need GST and I don't need any bills. So this gold, silver, all of these items, they are all precious metals, right? Look at their value. Everyone invests in them. Okay? The government also had a big fear that if we impose too much GST on this, people might stop doing transactions legally. They will do the whole transaction illegally with black money. The illegal transactions also had to be stopped. So sometimes you wouldn't even be able to imagine how many reasons there are. As you might be thinking, why is the government charging 3% GST on gold biscuits and 12% GST on Parle G biscuits? Is this government doing anything for the poor? It's for the rich, isn't it? No, there is a reason behind everything. If the GST rate on gold were increased, then the people would hoard more black money, in this they invest black money in jewelries and etc. So the government wanted that the GST rate on this should be so low that people wouldn't be affected. And this transaction should also be done in white money. Right, on diamonds and so only 0.25% is levied. Suppose the rate of GST on a particular good is 18%, it means CGST would be 9% and SGST 9%. It's a straight talk. Suppose I say that the GST on any goods is 28%. This means IGST will become 28. CGST 14, SGST 14. If the GST rate on an item is 12%, so what does that mean? 12% GST means IGST will be 12%, CGST 6% and SGST 6%. UTGST will also be 6%, right? Okay, so you have understood the rates under GST. Let me tell you one more thing just for your information. Okay, you can leave it and forget it after listening. When the GST law was made, it was also written there that the state governments have a 2% band. 2% band. Which means that they have a 2% flexibility to choose their own rate. And if the central government decides everything, then why was the state government even brought into this? Okay, you have read the constitution, right? It mentions that the central government and the state government has the power. So what power was given? It was given. And the power is given that you have a 2% band. You can move 2% of GST up or down. For example, if the GST rate on a particular item is 18%. So what does that mean? How much will be the CGST? How much will be the IGST? It means the IGST will be 18%. The CGST will be 9%. And SGST will be 9%. Now the state government has been given a 2% band, meaning they can set the SGST rate anywhere between 7% and 11%. They are given this band. Has this band ever been used by any state government on any item till today? No. I had told you that the central government had pleaded with the state government saying, please don't do this. Okay? This power is given to you to keep you happy that you can edit the rates according to yourself. If you do this, then our dream of making our country an international market will be completely finished when it will not even remain a national market. If you make different GST rates, then goods will be sold at their own rates in each state. When goods will be sold at their own GST rate, then every market will become a different market by itself. Let's say, for instance, X state says, what will be the SGST rate in my state? The SGST will be 7%. And another state says, no, here how much will be the rate of SGST of the same item? 11% because a 2% band has been created. You can adjust 2% up and down. Add the CGST, it will remain 9. In this also the CGST will remain 9. Now you can see, in this state the taxable GST will be 16% and in this it will be 20%. Earlier also this was the problem. What was the problem in pre-GST era? That each state had its own VAT rate. Because of this, goods were sold at different rates in every state. So every state was a separate market in itself. There was no national level competition. And we used to talk big things that will become international market when we weren't even national market. Same thing is coming up here. Okay? The government is saying that same thing will happen again, so don't do that. Okay? Slowly, the government will edit this and also terminate it. Ban will not be given from that the whole problem will be created all of a sudden. Okay? And just forget this now because there is nothing like that anywhere. Okay, that's written and the discussion is over. Just remember that whatever the CGST is, the SGST is also the same. Don't cram this in mind. Okay? Let's move on and see taxes subsumed into GST. Which taxes have been subsumed into GST and have been abolished? GST came and those taxes ended. How many taxes were subsumed and GST was created? VAT/sales tax. See, if we talk about major taxes, then I'll tell you again. See, goods and services. This is where GST is applied, right? So, goods previously had two types of duty. One for manufacturing and one separate for sale. Okay? And on services, there was only one tax which was called service tax. Okay, so excise duty used to be levied on manufacturing. And on sales was applied. Sales also had 2 points. Intra. And this is inter. It's intra, so VAT. And if it's inter, then CST. So these four taxes are excise, VAT, CST and service tax. Okay, service tax on service. Okay, majorly, these four taxes were abolished and then GST came in their place. Okay, the first is saying value added tax or sales tax. It's talking about value added tax or central sales tax. It's finished. Okay. Okay. Is it finished for everything? No, GST is still not applicable on some items. The entire law hasn't ended yet. But 99% is finished, so we're saying finished. But it's not finished yet. Please listen carefully, it's not finished yet. Let me tell you how it hasn't ended. Like state excise duty was levied on alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Is it still there? Yes, it is. Okay. After that, see. If I talk about VAT or CST, even today VAT or CST is being levied on alcohol liquor for human consumption. What's being levied on petroleum? What's being levied on 5 petrol products? It's VAT or CST. Old taxes are still being levied on it where there is no GST. The old tax is being levied. So the tax hasn't been abolished. But 99.99% is over. There are a few items left. So I'm saying subsume. Okay, 99.99%. But it's not like that it's finished 100%. Okay, please. Okay. If you want, you can write here still applicable on alcohol, petrol. Okay. Purchase tax. Now what is this purchase tax? You can call this reverse charge, the reverse charge of the old era. Like a registered dealer. Those who had already registered underweight. Okay, because even in the case of VAT, what was it? That there was your turnover. If turnover is more than specified limit, take registration, otherwise don't. If turnover is more than specified limit, then take it, otherwise don't. So, whose turnover was more than specified limit, they were called registered supplier. When we used to buy goods from registered supplier earlier, he would take VAT from us. Okay. But suppose we are also a businessman. We ourselves are a registered businessman. But from whom we are buying goods, he's small, unregistered businessman. Is it possible that we buy goods from a small businessman? Yes. We're big businessmen, but we're buying goods from small businessmen. Is it possible? Okay. Do we buy goods from small businessmen? So how is it possible? Okay, like for example today. Today, are we registered under GST? Yes. From where we buy stationery? We buy it from neighborhood shop. His turnover is less than 40 lakhs, not registered under GST. We buy from small businessman. See, that's the example. So is it possible for big trader to buy goods from small trader? Answer is yes, it's possible. So previously, when we used to buy goods from a registered trader, so he would take VAT from us. But if we used to buy goods from an unregistered trader and we ourselves were registered, even though registered ourselves, we buy goods from unregistered. So government used to say, look, he can't give VAT. It isn't in his control. He's small trader. Do one thing. What you should do with VAT? You deposit it directly to us. The government is saying to us, like suppose some person is giving us goods worth 100. He isn't registered. And on that there's 5% VAT rate. So government is saying you pay 100 to him and 5 to us directly. This was called purchase tax. We'll purchase and pay tax on it. If other person was registered, he would have charged 5% tax on 100, taking 105 rupees from us. Then he would give 5 rupees to government. Government says it's out of his reach. He's small trader, let him take 100. You give 5 rupees to us. So purchase tax was if from unregistered supplier, we buy goods. We are ourselves registered supplier. We are a registered person, okay? And if we buy goods from unregistered person, so government used to say you pay tax. They would tell registered person to pay tax on purchase. Well, you don't need to know all what used to happen in it. Just understand which taxes has eliminated. That's it, okay? That's my habit to talk a lot, Okay, you won't have to worry. Earlier entry tax was there. Octroi was there. Entry tax, you know what it was like. Like a truck comes from one state to another state. So as soon as it crosses border of another state, so to cross border there was entry tax. State said car is coming in my state, it will have to pay tax. Like if goods from UP is going to Bihar, then at the border, truck driver, truck is stopped and tax is taken. That's an entry tax. VAT, CST were there on goods. It's being transported by truck by crossing border, and at border there's additional entry tax. What was octroi? Entry tax was taken by all the states. Some cities used to levy octroi as well. They used to say if vehicle enters my city, we will take money. Like Mumbai is in Maharashtra. Let us say a truck goes from UP to Maharashtra. First, it enters in Maharashtra. So Maharashtra is saying vehicle is entering my state, give tax. And inside Maharashtra, truck is going to Mumbai. So Mumbai will say now it's entering Mumbai, give us tax. That's octroi. Not all cities were taking octroi, but some cities were taking octroi. Means state entry tax. Then the city entry tax. Right? It was taxes everywhere. It was web of taxes in our country. It was said for our country that there was a web of taxes here. Even today, it's not less. You see, the web is very small now. If it was this big web, so today it's this small. But still it's a web. This can be cut and trimmed and reduced to just this much. Let's see when it happens. Local body tax. Some items were subject to local taxes, like on medicines, etc. There was local tax on them. So the VAT and CST will be levied, but this local tax will be levied separately. Meaning that money would go to that city or village. The state also got money and on some items. VAT and CST were state government tax, so those tax were levied, and there's local tax. Unbelievable, brother. Entertainment tax. Where it get levied? Cinema ticket, entertainment tax was levied. Concert being held. If there was a show going on, entertainment tax was applied on its tickets. Entertainment tax rate was very high. I'll tell you how much it was. It was around 50%. Like if a ticket cost is 100 for a movie, adding 50 rupees entertainment tax, it would become 150. For example, if ticket was of 500, then adding 250. Adding 250, it'll be 750 for entertainment. 750 rupees would be the ticket price. Now, entertainment tax on cinema is removed and GST has come in its place. So, cinema now has GST of 28%, so it's less now. I have told you many times, you see the old taxes, whatever they were. Whatever tax was levied on any item, the government has only reduced the rate. It's been reduced a lot, man. In many places, it's been reduced. Okay, like in earlier days on SE. The tax was perhaps more than 28% in VAT, etc. When GST came, it was put at 28%. So the tax was higher than the rate at which it was levied. It was 5, 12, 18, 28. So 4 slabs of GST came. Whatever rate was the higher, it was fitted into the lower rate. Okay? If there's an item with tax rate between 18% and 25% or 26%, it was brought down to 18%. Government has done this. Even after that, people might say after coming of GST, it led to destruction. This happened, that happened. So let me tell you, this is a very beneficial thing for everyone. Luxury tax. What was luxury tax? For example, when you used to book a hotel room earlier, service tax used to be levied. That will be applied since it's a service. Today GST is levied. But the 5-star and above property means 5-star or 7-star. They also levy luxury tax on top of it. So service tax plus luxury tax. That you're enjoying luxury, it was too much, brother. I mean, you see what all taxes were levied. Betting, gambling and lottery taxes were levied. So all the things related to gambling. On all betting, gambling, lottery tax was levied. It was very large tax system. So nowadays online games and online lotteries have also started. So there's GST on all, 28% GST. Earlier this was separate tax, betting, lottery, gambling tax. And besides this, there are many surcharge and state cess were there. Many surcharges and cesses, they all were removed. So all this state government tax is finished. State government what tax were removed? VAT, CST. Purchase tax, entry tax, octroi, local body tax, entertainment, luxury, betting, gambling, lottery tax. And several states surcharge and cess. Now, which taxes of central government were removed? Central excise duty finished. Excise duty levied on manufacturers removed. State excise duty is still there. Note, it was levied on alcohol earlier and even today it's there. Central excise duty is finished. Additional duty of excise is finished. Additional duty of excise also there, means entire excise has ended. Central excise and additional excise duty all have ended. Excise on medicinal and toiletry preparations. By using alcohol, the goods that were manufactured also had central excise duty on them. Now see, earlier the product was divided into 3 categories. First, alcohol. So the goods were divided into 3 categories. One is the alcohol. Goods using alcohol. And other, on these state excise duty were levied. On this central excise duty was levied, and on this too central excise duty was levied. On this central excise duty was levied under the Excise Act. And on this central excise duty was levied excise on Medicinal and Toiletries Preparation Act, this one. Central excise duty, it's also this, but there were different laws for both. Okay? It was under different laws and this was state governments. Okay, additional custom duty, okay, earlier. What was levied on imports? These are all import taxes. This I'm not trying to hard on this. Why? Because what will you do by knowing what happened earlier? Know today's, learn GST. Is this less for you? Earlier and today, import used to have BCD, CVD, ADD, okay, EC, SHEC, leave this too. This was the main duty, okay. Now it's BCD plus IGST, okay. So on this BCD, meaning basic custom duty, this is still alive today. CVD, countervailing duty. C, it's closed. Countervailing duty, or it's also called additional custom duty, CVD. So this stopped. Special additional duty, or it's called ADD. Special additional duty or ADD additional duty. This has also stopped. It's called by both names SAD or ADD. It was said, it's finished, it's dead, all these taxes. It was removed. Service tax is gone. Surcharge cess, there were so many cesses. KKC, it was Krishi Kalyan cess. Infrastructure cess. ASBC was Swachh Bharat cess. Education cess, secondary higher education cess. So many central government tax was there. This all stopped. Okay. EC and SHEC applied on income tax also. I'm not talking about that. We are talking about indirect taxes. Okay. Don't put direct taxes anywhere. So when GST came in place of indirect taxes, which indirect taxes were abolished? That I am telling you. For your kind information, EC and SHEC. Okay. Now, if you look at here, there is actually one variant which is levied under income tax, health and education cess. Right? So this one is called health and education cess. So education cess under income tax. That is still alive, it has not died. Health and the education cess. This, which are used in indirect tax, those are gone. And central sales tax, CST. Okay? Okay, you might say, sir, you keep saying that CST is a state government revenue. So why is this written here? Son, that revenue was of central government. But that revenue was like the complete donation from the central government to the state government. Do you understand? You don't understand, right? Come, I'll explain. There's a father. He has 3 sons. And the father has 3 shops. Okay. Medicine shop, clothing shop, and a shoe shop. So what did the father do? He gave each of his 3 sons a shop. And asked, son, you take care of medicine shop, you will take care of clothing shop, and you will take care of shoe shop. I'll spend some time at each of 3 shops every day. Okay? I'll sit for 9 hours, 3 hours at your shop, 3 hours at your shop, and 3 hours at your shop. I'll pay attention to all 3 shops. Okay. What does the father do? He takes all the profit from the sales of the 3 shops for the entire day. And each son is given 1000 rupees per day. It doesn't matter to him who did what or how much. Everyone get 1000 rupees. Okay? One way is this. What can be the second way of father? Father gives the shop to all 3 children. 1 shop each was given. And he told them, now son, you don't need to give us anything. Whatever you earn from shop, that will be yours. What I want to say is, here understand this, that the central government helps state government through revenue in these 2 ways. One thing is, state government says that central government, I need some money for expenses. So the central government says, take 10,000 rupees. One method could be, like father was giving 1000 to each of his son daily. What's another way? Father gave his son means to earn money, saying, take this, grab it. Earn with this and take care of your expenses. In the same way, the central government has brought CST as a means to earn. They gave it to the state government, saying, here, take it, grab it. This is mine, CST, I know, but take it. Keep it, manage your expenses. Now you must understand the point. Ultimately, state government will receive money from central government. Either they give a lump sum like this, that this much money we will give. Is there another way? Someone simply give away its resources. So, CST. According to the constitution, the revenue was actually with the central government, but the central government had already given it to the state government. Okay. So even today, if we say that it was a central tax or a state tax, that was a central tax. But the revenue was going to the state government because the central government gave it to state government. Okay. Therefore, it's written here. Note. Sale tax on 5 petroleum product. 5 petroleum product, petroleum crude, motor spirit which we call petrol, high speed diesel, means diesel, natural gas and ATF. Aviation turbine fuel which is put in airplanes. Fuel shall continue for a period of time. This will continue to have sales tax, that is, the same VAT or CST will continue. The GST Council will decide when to bring this into GST. Alright? So, the GST Council will decide when in GST it will come. Okay? Therefore, now if I tell you what I think, then I believe that petrol should be brought under GST. Okay? What all is in GST and what is not, its list was with you, right? Yes. Alcoholic liquor for human consumption. It will take time. It's not included in GST yet. Immovable property. It will be included in GST. See, it will come in some time. Money and securities. Brother, in money and securities, GST does not and will never apply, since it's not good service. If you give 500 rupee and take 500 rupee notes, then will GST be applied on it? This nonsense will never happen in life. So this is not in GST and it will never be. Okay. Alcoholic liquor, it will come but will take time. Immovable property should come. I think, why is government even charging stamp duty? Instead, directly replace with GST. Okay. And look, there's another issue as well. Let's say I buy a flat. Okay, until the flat was not ready, I paid 80 lakh rupees. It's 1 crore flat. Until it wasn't ready, I paid 80 lakh. I also paid GST on 80 lakh rupees. And when flat is ready, I pay 20 lakh rupees and get flat registered. It's 1 crore flat, so I paid stamp duty on whole 1 crore. So 80 lakh rupees that I paid before construction was completed includes GST and then stamp duty also. This is a problem. There is double taxation happening here. Government should remove stamp duty and bring in GST here. So I think this should come quickly. Quickly doesn't mean 6 months or 8 months. Okay, then quickly means 3 years. And when I say it will take time, it feels like there's 5 to 10 years left. Okay? Petroleum's 5 products should also have GST soon. This will stop. That's why the government has put it in the constitution, right? On alcohol, there will be mess. In case of alcohol, many states would start flipping instantly if they were told that even alcohol, they're merging it here because currently its revenue is going to state government. And there's good revenue on it as well. State government collect hefty revenue. Okay, meaning they don't take normal taxes, they charge all sorts of extra taxes on it. On manufacturing, it is charging the state excise duty. Then VAT and CST are also being collected. This will take time, but everything else can come gradually. Okay, we will end today's class here. In the next class, we will tell you which are the old indirect taxes. Those are not included in GST even today and are still alive. Those are still running. So taxes not subsumed in GST, we'll discuss in next class. We will end today's class here.